Today is not just another day. Today is another chance to make your possibilities come true. Fantastic Radio UK, home of possibilities.
Well, in 2010, I was diagnosed with prostate cancer. Fortunately, it was picked up early, and now I'm determined to raise the awareness of this issue. My strength comes from knowing that the people that I talk to, I take their strength and they take my strength, and that's where I get my strength from. Every day, I draw strength from somebody else. My message to black men is, if you want to continue to be strong, right, be more knowledgeable, right, and spread the word about raising the awareness of prostate cancer. Before I had prostate cancer, I knew nothing about prostate cancer, right? It wasn't a subject that I'd even breached or approached until the day that I picked up that leaflet. And what's even more ironic with it is later down in the whole of this prostate story that's happened with me and the journey that I've taken with it, is that I found out later on that my dad had the same problem, but never said anything. But this is something that needs to be spoken about, because if somebody in your family has got this problem, unfortunately, someone else is likely to have it. You know, so for me, the more you talk about it, the more the awareness becomes important. The reason why I'm supporting the Stronger Knowing More campaign is, one, because it's personal to me. Two, knowing more means I can get a message out, particularly to Afro-Caribbean men, about the risk of why we need to raise the awareness of this problem. Prostate cancer knocked me down. It didn't knock me out.
This is tomorrow. Tomorrow, very early, someone will go on her first ever run. Right after, Shelly-Ann will run the 100 in under 10 seconds. By lunchtime, a shoe will grow from a seed. The WNBA will surpass the NBA in popularity. This tennis legend will launch her own video game. Also, tomorrow, we will all finally respect athletes' mental health. A woman will run a marathon on Mars. Tomorrow, we will celebrate new champions. And one sport is declared a human right. Tomorrow, we'll go really crazy. Marie Antoinette will score 7 in 7 minutes. Guy will land a 16-20. LeBron will score 120, and I don't know what this is, but it looks amazing. Of course, the internet will break. Well done, tomorrow. Can't wait to see what's next.
Start your morning with optimism, believing your possibilities. Thank you for choosing Fantastic Radio UK. Your music, your possibilities.
A very good morning to you. At top of the morning, as a dear friend would say, very good morning to you. It's 4 minutes past 7. My name is Kojo Bonti Amoako, and for the next 45 to about 50 minutes, I'm going to be sharing with you bits and pieces and sharing stories with you, and also, most of all, five ways to overcome self-doubting as an interpreter. As you rightly know, the whole of this month of August as a station, we're focusing on entrepreneurship and different strands of entrepreneurship and what we as people and also as entrepreneurs can take advantage of. For the next few minutes, as we proceed and as we share stories and also, come up with news and content that would empower and most of all, be able to add value to your life, I would very much would say thank you for joining us this morning. Unfortunately, Simon Uncle isn't with us this morning. Simon joins us on Monday. Simon will be coming through on Monday, but you can always get in touch with me at Bonti, Bonti fantasticradio.co.uk. So this morning I'm flying solo. Simon joins us on Monday the 23rd. Simon, good morning, and I hope you're well. I hope you're keeping absolutely beautiful. It's 5 minutes past 7. Once again, my name is Kojo Bonti Amoako. This morning, my special guest will be Mr. Dr. Charlie Easmon, who will be sharing with us his journey into entrepreneurship and his education, but most of all, want to focus on his journey into entrepreneurship. How did he start? He trained as a doctor, but he went into business to start his own business, went through his own challenges, and now runs his own practice, on Raleigh Street and other activities and other businesses and charities that he's involved in. We're going to go do music, and as soon as we come back, I'd love to share with you the 5 ways to overcome self-doubt as an interpreter. And after that, my guest hopefully would have come through and we can have a beautiful conversation. I tell you what I was reading over the past few days. I've been reading this beautiful book from Muhammad Ali. And one quotation in that book jumped at me. In fact, 2 of them jumped at me. The first one, it said, a man, Muhammad Ali says a man, but I refer to it as a woman or a man who has no imagination, has no wings. A man or a woman who has no imagination, has no wings. And it jumped at me. Why? Because I felt that as we go through the journey as entrepreneurs, one of the senses and one of the skills and one of the things that we would have to work on is having our imagination sharpened, having our thoughts and our thinking capacity widened, and allowing ourselves to be critical with ourselves, but at the same time being very kind with ourselves, but most of all allowing our thoughts and our imagination to dream. And I would want to agree with Muhammad Ali saying that the imagination of a person plays a pivotal role to their success and to they not achieving well or achieving much in life. And I would love to also agree with Albert Einstein, who said imagination is more important than knowledge. For knowledge is limited, whereas imagination embraces the entire world, stimulating progress and giving birth to evolution. Did you hear that? Let me say that again. 7 minutes past 7. I said that, I share with you Mr. Albert Einstein's quote, and after that we go for music, and I'll share with you the 5 ways to overcome self-doubt as an entrepreneur. I quote again. He said, imagination is more important than knowledge. For knowledge is limited, whereas imagination embraces the entire world, stimulating progress and giving birth to evolution. That is my quote for you this morning. One from Muhammad Ali and one from Albert Einstein. Let's do music. 7 minutes. 7 minutes past 7 on Fantastic Mornings. My name is Kojo Bonti Amoako. And when we come back, I will share with you 5 ways to overcome self-doubt as an interpreter. Good morning to you, Mr. Hamidi. Let's do music.
Connect with Kojo on Twitter at Bonti Amoako or on email bonti@fantasticradio.co.uk.
Look at your hands. Look at them. Look how far they've come. They've grown. They've learned. They've loved. They've lost. They've loved again. Your hands have worked, struggled, created and mastered. They worked hard for this. It was worth it. With World Remit, you can instantly send money abroad, knowing that you're in safe hands. World Remit. Money in safe hands.
we understand what the journey is about, how it can sometimes take a little distance to bring us a little closer together. With ways to save more when you send more, World Remit is here for you, so you can be there for them.
South Africa, baby. Oh, yeah, 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 yeah. Ako music. Nakatenderanika, nichicha kama stikana, akanaka. Marina kanzami na macho. I met this girl out of pretty, so I know the Hana.
Connect with Kojo on Twitter at Bonti Amoako or on email bonti@fantasticradio.co.uk.
You're very much welcome. You are so very much welcome. Still on Fantastic Radio, the home of possibilities. My name again is Kojo Bonti Amoako. Usually you hear Simon Uncle with me on the other side of the microphone, and we do this, every Monday, every Wednesday, every Friday. And Simon couldn't join us today, but Simon comes through on Monday. Coming Monday on the 23rd, Kumbania will be coming through, sharing with us, being the original you, and Simone will be on the other side of your radio coming through. But in the meantime, I want to say thank you very much for choosing us this morning, 12 minutes past 7. And as I said to you, my special guest, Dr. Charlie Easmon, will be spending 30 minutes with us, talking to us about his journey as an entrepreneur and, training as a doctor, and also starting his own practice on Harley Street, and, the challenges that has gone through and some of the nuggets that he will he will share with us, and also as entrepreneurs, what we can learn and sharpen our tools. 5 things that comes through to me whilst I was preparing for this morning, 5 ways to overcome self-doubt as an entrepreneur. And I prepared a few bullet points, and Mr. Hamidi most definitely will be displaying some of the bullet points that I'll be displaying. One of them, they said, entrepreneurship is one of the most difficult jobs. We work 24/7 to always stay one step ahead of the competition. That's looking and taking advantage, of the business, and also the business pie. The problem is that often it is not our competition. It's not even the market that we should be watching for. But what we should watch for, as far as I'm concerned, is self-sabotage. Self-sabotage is among the most prominent reasons why entrepreneurs quit following their dreams and instead decide to live a life of obscurity, whether it is in their inner critic questioning every move, or even some event happening in the market that makes them reconsider if it was even the right decision to start their own business. Self-sabotage. Many things comes to stop us as we pursue and move on on our dreams. But luckily, most of them are limited to our minds. So it shouldn't be that difficult to get rid of them, at least in theory. When you learn, or when we learn how to not to fall prey to self-sabotage, we will be able to elevate our lives and destroy any obstacle on our way as soon as it appears. But 5 things, I wanted to share 5 things with you. The first thing is, remember why you started your business. That's the thing. Number 1, remember why you started your business. When you start your business and you start your business, maybe you've taken a huge step in starting your business. I go on to say, after making those sacrifices and making those decisions, it gets to a place where you begin to question and wonder whether it was the right thing for you. But even if the journey didn't involve a life-changing decisions, or even if you didn't start the business in escaping any difficult moments, you get to a point where you begin to wonder whether it's the right thing for you to do. Simon Sinek has got a book called Knowing Your Why. I would suggest you get that book. Amazing book. So the first thing is, remember why you are in business. Knowing your why. The second one goes on to think about the outcome. After you think about why you start your business, it is time to think about what will happen if you stick to it and reach the finishing line. Usually the outcome is very clear, or sometimes it's not very clear, but you have to think of what is going to happen at the end of it. Think into the future. Think about the possibilities ahead, whether the priority of changing your own life or someone's life. You never know. You never know, as you're doing what you're doing as an entrepreneur, the lives and the value you will bring into people's lives. So think of the outcome. See how best you can be consistent with what you're doing and carry on being, carrying on doing what you're doing. If it's difficult, seek for help. Seek for help and look at the outcome. Look at the other things that is ahead of you and how you can take advantage of it. The third one is focus on what matters. When you think about the things bothering you, they are often trivial. And that is not for me to, trivialize or minimize your pain. But if you really take the time to look at it, you will notice that if you really sit down to the minutest of it, you'll be able to navigate your way through. As an entrepreneur, you would have to focus on what matters. Most of the time, they are the exact case scenarios, and the probability of them actually happening is extremely slim. Yet it is in our own nature to focus on the negatives. I love that. The focusing on the negatives, right? Sometimes you get all sorts of things jumping at you, but I would suggest as soon as the negatives begins to working, you should be able to have that backup, that mental strength to say, listen, I'm not going to let this take over. What do? You get a book to read, you get into a mastermind, you find a brilliant network of people within your network, and you take advantage of them and see how they can help you to come out of the self-sabotaging. Sometimes all you need is a business coach. Sometimes all you need is getting yourself a mentor. I use a business coach. I use business coaches. Some help me in my mind. Some help me with my finances. Some will help me in trying to map my way forward. And these things play a major part. Another thing you can also look at as an entrepreneur is to find a pair or a pairing up with other entrepreneurs. There are other bodies you can be part of. There is the Startup Nation. There is the Federation of Small Business that you can join. You join and you are able to access plethora of content. You're able to get into networks. You join different business networks and build relationships. You will be surprised what you can learn from there. And I'll go on to the fourth one. Stop comparing yourself to others. Stop comparing yourself to others. I'm still dealing with the 5 ways to overcome self-doubt as an entrepreneur. Often, our head is filled with doubt when we see somebody doing better or we see other people doing stuff and we are wondering, how come I can't do what they're doing? And we start comparing. The problem is that we never know people's real journey. Even if the person is a public figure, there is plenty or many information about them online, but it really reflects their reality, right? Because that is their journey. Focus on yourself. Find out, what is it that I can learn? What is it that we can borrow from this person? That is why, as a station, we've dedicated the whole of August to deal with entrepreneurship and coming with different entrepreneurs, sharing their story, we learning and borrowing from them. We're going to be having Dr. Charlie sharing with us his story as an entrepreneur. There are things he's going to say that you can borrow from, and you can add to yours. Some will say you add it to the string to your bow and move on in life and see how you can advance your own vision and make your vision a possibility or making it manifest. The last one, the last way of overcoming self-doubt as an entrepreneur is appreciating yourself. Appreciating yourself. This brings us to the last point. This is very important. When you know your journey, it's like nobody's one or none. Your journey is uniquely yours. Your journey is uniquely yours. Whether your situation is now, the only person responsible for changing and making it happen is you. spend the time with you and take some time to appreciate yourself. How do you speak to yourself as an entrepreneur? What do you say to yourself? I remember one of my business coaches shared a beautiful quote with me. He said, Kojo, what you say to yourself, you hear it. Whatever you are saying, you are hearing it. So be careful what you say, because what you say becomes part of your mental structure. Because consistently, that is what your mind hears. And what your mind hears, it goes into the subconscious mind. The conscious mind picks it up. And unconsciously, you start regurgitating the same thing that you've heard. What kind of music do you listen to? Who is in your network? Where do you go for refreshment? Where do you go for replenishment? When you are tired as an entrepreneur with the hustle and bustle, where do you go? Do you take time off and go and rest and rejuvenate? Where do you go? What do you buy for yourself? Sometimes you just have to, you go to town and buy something for yourself as an entrepreneur, because the attention very much goes on everybody, even with the business. But you forget yourself. Take some time to appreciate yourself as an entrepreneur, and you'll be surprised. These other things and many other things would help you sabotaging self-doubt. I hope these 5 ways of overcoming self-doubt have been helpful. And if at any point I can be of help, on your journey as an entrepreneur, please reach out to me. It's Bonti at fantasticradio.co.uk. We're on Fantastic Mornings. My name is Kojo Bonti Amoako. My special guest today is going to be Dr. Charlie Easmon, who will be spending the next few minutes with us, sharing with us his entrepreneurial journey and many other things. Mr. Hamidi, let's do music. And as soon as we come back, I am looking forward to talking to Dr. Charles Easmon.
Connect with Kojo on Twitter at Bonti Amoako or on email bonti@fantasticradio.co.uk.
Look at your hands. Look at them. Look how far they've come. They've grown. They've learned. They've loved. They've lost. They've loved again. Your hands have worked, struggled, created and mastered. They worked hard for this. It was worth it. With World Remit, you can instantly send money abroad, knowing that you're in safe hands. World Remit. Money in safe hands.
World Remit, we understand what the journey is about, how it can sometimes take a little distance to bring us a little closer together. With ways to save more when you send more, World Remit is here for you, so you can be there for them.
This is an intercultural exchange and an intercontinent experience. FantasticRadio.co.uk, home of possibilities.
You might very much welcome 26 minutes past 7. My name is Kojo Bonti Amoako. As I said, I'm flying solo this morning, and so Simone joins us coming Monday on the 23rd. Simone will come through and join us. My guest today is a trained doctor who trained at St. George's Hospital Medical School in South London and performed his medical electives. Elective period in Ghana. Since then, he's worked with a number of international medical organizations and charities, including the Merlin, Raleigh International, and Save the Children in Rwanda, and ECHO in Armenia, Georgia, and Azerbaijan. Dr. Charlie has done a lot of work in international medicine, working under the appointment of the Foreign Office. Charlie has operated across Africa in the countries such as Egypt, Israel, Tunisia, Japan, Korea, Taiwan, and Philippines. He has been actively involved in a number of different types of medical aid emergencies, including medical evacuations. And following these high-level international experiences, Charlie has some of the highest level of expertise in travel medicines and public health. When it comes to corporate health, and corporate mental health, Charlie's deep interest in the mental and occupational health is the corporate setting, and particularly within the high stress arenas. He does some work with the National Health Service, which I would love to find out more about. He has wide-ranging experiences into consequences of staff working in various conditions. His concern is about the aspect of late referrals and how to all men, how the all too often lack of appropriate mental health support resources, and how people who work in highly stressed environment will get their mental health supported. Can I ask Mr. Hamidi to please introduce to us Mr. Charlie Easmon, please? Good morning to you, Dr. Charlie.
Good morning.
How are you doing, sir?
Very good, thank you.
I'm good to have you. I'm so pleased to have you. How are you keeping, sir? And how have you been with the whole coronavirus and all the challenges that this season has been?
Yeah, coronavirus, I think, has led to a lot of us rethinking what the quality of our life is. And for me, it meant that I cut down the number of times I was in the office, in the clinic.
Right.
I moved more work online.
Yes.
And I realized, actually, for me, that was good. I liked that. Going into the office every day wasn't really my dream. And it also meant that you could rethink where you live, because, now I'm thinking country more than city.
Right.
And I'm going to move to Kent for a while, Broadstairs, and then finally move to Scotland. Okay.
Charlie, the reason why the team brought you through was to share with our listeners. The whole of August, as a station, we're focusing on entrepreneurship and sharing with our listeners how we can envision, we can enlarge, and we can expand our possibilities. The whole of August, we've been having guests coming through, sharing, plethora of content. But we felt that you adding to the strand of ideas would add value to our listeners. So I felt, let's get Dr. Charlie with us. Charlie, you started as a doctor. You went to medical school, started as a doctor, and you find yourself into, as an entrepreneur. How did it start?
So when I started my medical career, I really just focused on one pathway, which was the National Health Service. And then after a while, I realized, in fact, it was racism that made me decide to leave. So I realized there was certain barriers to my progress. And I was overworking and I was overstressed and I wasn't enjoying my work anymore. And I made a very brave decision. I just said, that's it, I'm done, I'm quitting. And everyone said, well, what are you going to do? And I said, I don't care, it's better than this. So I'm one of those guys who jumped literally without a safety net.
Right.
Luckily for me, I found that there was a job that was very exciting for 6 years. And this was to do medical evacuations for the insurance companies.
Okay.
What would happen is you would register as a doctor.
Mhm.
The insurance company would ring you and say a British tourist in Benidorm has had a heart attack, and we would like a doctor to accompany this tourist back home
Right.
to make sure that on the flight there's no complications. So that I would go to the office, pick up a defibrillator, the medical kit,
Right.
fly to Benidorm, see this guy, make sure he was stable, and then we would travel back. And so this job, most of the tourists are Spain, but occasionally you would get to someone like Kenya.
Okay.
And there was a very famous photographer called Peter Beard, and he was taking a picture of an elephant, and the elephant decided it didn't like it. So sure enough, the elephant went through his thigh. He almost died. So we evacuated him from Kenya via London to New York. So this was very exciting for 6 years. At the end of 6 years, a friend of mine said, look, Charlie, you've got this wonderful brain. This is not a job to do forever. Do some more study. So he suggested I do a master's in public health. So I funded myself through that at the London School of Hygiene. Right. And then I thought, you know what, public health, this is good. Tropical medicine, I should do that. So I did a diploma at Liverpool in tropical medicine. And then I decided I should do some development work. So this led to my time in Rwanda, 6 months there. And we ended up setting up a refugee camp 2 years after the genocide. We had 12,000 people in our camp. And I would say that's probably the single most fulfilling thing that I feel I will ever do in my life, to help that many people in that sort of situation.
Right.
Then I did some other charity work, as you know, with Save the Children and a youth charity called Raleigh International. But the beauty of that was it introduced me to Botswana. And if you've never been to the Okavango Delta, my God, that is one of the most beautiful places and unspoiled as of yet that you will ever experience. And I was lucky enough to canoe through the Delta, to trek through the Delta, to see all the big five. There's an elephant over there, there's a rhino here, there's a giraffe here, there's some lions over there. These were great experiences. And then I got picked up actually because I was at an international meeting and a man said, look, you've got such an interesting CV, come and work for us. And this was the British Foreign Office. I would never have thought to work for the Foreign Office. Okay. And so for 2.5 years, I had this amazing job looking after diplomats. Somebody else looked after the spies. That wasn't my job. And then they would make me inspect medical facilities around the world. So everywhere, Korea, Japan, Taiwan. And at the end of that, I also did a diploma in occupational health. And I realized I had a package now. So I had all these self-funded, more or less, qualifications. And I thought, you know what? I could set up my own business. And so I made the brave move to do that. And luckily, it thrived for a long time. But I have to say, I also went bust at one point. So no journey in business is smooth.
I would love to go into the journey and explore further, but without squeezing everything with the challenges that you went through with the bust. What lesson did you pick up when you went through that busting season?
Do you know what? The greatest lesson was, I think, that we all have this inner resilience. We can survive anything that throws at us. Yeah,
I like that.
And also you realize who your core friends are, because suddenly your phone stops ringing. A lot of people are no longer in touch. And also, it allows you to re-evaluate value, because obviously when you don't have much money, you're not going to spend it on all the expensive things that you previously did. And so you become much wiser in your selection of resources, and you're less frivolous with how you spend your money.
Interesting. We're talking to Dr. Charlie, Easmon, who he's got all sorts of degrees. If you come online, you can see Charlie's done all sorts. And what jumps at me whilst I'm talking to him and reading his profile, Dr. Charlie, you invested quite a lot in education and getting yourself educated. Before we get into entrepreneurship and your journey in starting your practice on Harley Street and all the other activities that you're involved in, how important is education when you're going into business?
I think it's very important, but let me be fair on this. Okay, so not everybody is suited to traditional academic learning. And what we know is that schools don't look after a lot of people with difficulties like dyslexia. So you've got all these excellent entrepreneurs like Richard Branson who had dyslexia and so on and so on. So don't be put off by the fact that you are not academic in your learning. Your learning can be, literally there's the MBA, right? The Master in Business Administration. But there's also what I call the MBA of Hard Knocks.
What's that?
The MBA of Hard Knocks is your ability to learn from experiences. And to be honest, I think the strongest people in my experience in business are the ones who've just put themselves out there, made mistakes and learned from their mistakes. As Einstein says, doing the same thing over again and expecting a different result is stupidity. So I think that it's not just the focus on academic learning, it's the fact that you're learning from experience. I think it's very important as well.
Charlie, there are people who are listening to you and would say, I'm scared. I want to start, but I'm very, very scared. Were you scared sometimes? And how did you deal with it?
Yeah, of course. And Tony Robbins has that great expression that you use the tools that you have. So if you're fearful, use it. What are you fearful about? Why are you fearful? Analyze it and use it. It's actually quite a useful tool. So I think the things that scared me were cash flow and lack of money. And one of the things that's interesting about business is that on paper you can be very successful, but if you don't have enough cash coming in at the right time, you fail. And banks, in my experience, are not very helpful with this. Someone described bankers as the sort of people who lend you an umbrella when it's not raining, but definitely don't give you the umbrella when it's raining. And so the thing I think very early on is to work out, well, okay, how much initially are we going to lose? Because most businesses will lose initially. Absolutely. And what is the point at which this is no longer tolerable for me and my family? You've got to do that math very early. You've got to work out where you can borrow from. And is it going to be friends and family, or is it going to be banks? Is it going to be some other form of loan? Be careful because there are loan sharks and they're going to charge you silly rates of interest. And one of the things I would advise a young person is that when you're at the stage where you've not really got any debt and you've got essentially a clean record because you haven't borrowed anything, you haven't needed to borrow anything, that's the time to try and get as many credit or debit cards as you can on the basis that you can do that at that stage. Now, you're not going to make use of those. Lock them away somewhere. Lock them away. But you know that at some point in the future, they'll be useful. Because at the point that you need the money, no one will give you the money.
Right. Interesting you share that, because as people run their own businesses, you realize it's one of the major challenges that people go through. I mean, the reason why I laughed, I had a similar scenario where I was quite worried about cash flow. Running a whole media, outfit like this, it's a cash flow. It's making sure that you got what it takes, because you got facilities, you got team, you got to pay stuff, you got to make sure the office is run, you got to get the license, you got to get all these things running. And from the beginning, I asked myself, look, do you really want to do this? And I had to. Funny enough, funny you say, where are you going to borrow? I said, listen, I'm not going to touch some of my savings, right? I'm going to make sure that, I streamline my life, get few things done. There are certain things I can do now. I would have to push them back and get on with it, put it on and do it. And slowly I realized it submerged my fears and concerns, because then again, there's clarity. my concerns weren't that heightened, I'm able to say, okay, right, I'm not going to struggle for the next 1 year. I'm okay. I'll go through for the next 2 years. On the third year, if I struggle, I have this that will go through. And I have built a network of good people around me who are around to. And you talked about friendships and getting, you suddenly know who your friends are. Talk to me about that. Talk to me about that. As in building the right network as an entrepreneur. What are some of the things you got to look into as in developing friendship and the right network as an entrepreneur? Talk to us about that, John.
Yeah. So one of the things I did, you mentioned all these groups that you could join. So I did join a group called Business Network International.
Okay.
Their focus is on word of mouth marketing. And I became a local director of that. So you hold a once a week breakfast meeting, and it teaches you a lot of skills in business. I'd say the only problem with it is that there's only one person from each profession. So there's an accountant, there's a solicitor, there's this and that. The only problem is you do feel over obliged to use the person who's sitting next to you, so who happens to be, and the person who happens to be a solicitor. That isn't always the right decision. I remember I chose a guy who claimed to be excellent at marketing. I mean, honestly, the man was awful. And my ex-wife at the time, she saw how awful he was. And I was the dumb guy thinking this guy was great, and I was wasting money on that. So I think networks can be great. Avoid people who are overselling to you, because once you're in a business, there are so many people who knock on your door and say, you should do this, you should do that. And some of those people have no better idea than you do. But it takes you a while sometimes to realize that. And also avoid the people who want to drag you away from your real vision. So there's someone who says, oh my gosh, you're doing X, but you and me, we could do this and we could be over there. And it will distract you from your real vision. So focus on what you really want to do. If it's build a media empire, you focus on that. But the guy who says we can also run a cupcake stall, forget it. It's not relevant. It's not of interest. It's gonna be a waste of your energy.
It's Dr. Charles, it's Dr. Charlie Easmon spending the next few minutes with us and sharing nuggets, business nuggets. When we come back from the break, I would love to find out what your excellent health service is all about. What prompted him starting that? And what does he do? How can one access his services? If you want to know more about Dr. Charlie, you go to www.yourexcellenthealth.org. You go to www.yourexcellenthealth.org. His contact number is on the screen now. You can go on the website and get his details. Is www.yourexcellenthealth.org. Let's do music, and as soon as we come back, I'd love to know what he does with his business, how he works, who comes in, and how can one access the service. Let's do music, Mr. Hamidi. Thank you.
Passion, creativity, and resilience are the most crucial skills on the entrepreneurial journey. If you've got those, you're ready to embark on the journey. Fantastic Radio UK. Your business, your possibilities.
Look at your hands. Look at them. Look how far they've come. They've grown. They've learnt. They've loved. They've lost. They've loved again. Your hands have worked, struggled, created and mastered. They worked hard for this. It was worth it. With World Remit, you can instantly send money abroad, knowing that you're in safe hands. World Remit. Money in safe hands.
Mama ko, mama sa, mako sa, mama ko, mama sa, mako sa, mama ko, mama sa, mako sa, mama ko, mama sa, mako sa.
Right, where should we start?
The monkeys!
Okay, we'll start with the monkeys. Then we'll see the elephants. Then the rhinoceros. Then we can see the penguins being fed. Then we'll have some lunch ourselves, but not fish. Then we can see the snakes and the creepy crawlies and the tigers and the lions. Then I'll buy you an ice cream. Then you wind me up. Then I'll lose it, and then I'll hit you. Then we'll see the camels and go home.
If you thought about it first, would you ever hit your children? Hit means lost it. For advice and information, call the NSPCC on 0808 800 5000.
Courage is the most important of all the virtues, because without courage, you can't practice any other virtue consistently. Fantastic Radio UK. Your music, your possibilities.
It's 47 minutes past 7 on Fantastic Radio, on Fantastic Mornings. My name is Kojo Bonti Amoako. Usually I'm on with Simon Uncle, who is on the other side of the microphone. Simon, as I said, joins us on Monday the 23rd. This morning I'm spending the time and the moment with Dr. Charlie Easmon. How do I pronounce your surname, sir?
Yeah, it's Easmon.
Easmon.
But, yeah, that's right.
Charlie Easmon. Charlie Easmon runs your excellent health service. Charlie, what is your excellent health service, and what do you do?
Yeah, thanks for asking. So obviously we have a national health service, and then when I set up a private business, I thought, well, okay, how can I differentiate it? So I decided it should be your excellent health service.
Right.
It's personalized medicine in that sense. And what we do a lot of, we work with a lot of corporations. So we work with Carnival Cruise Lines, Royal Caribbean, Italian oil companies, people like that. And they send employees for very specific medicals that we do, which involve blood tests, x-rays, and things like that. We also do occupational health. So if you're a company and you've got an employee who's sick and you don't know why they're sick or how long they're going to be sick or what modifications you need to put into the workplace, then I will speak to that employee either face-to-face or on the phone, assess the depth of their problem, whether it's physical, mental, social, and report back to you as to what my opinion is on that situation.
Right.
More generally, at certain times of the year, we do things like flu vaccines, and currently with COVID, of course, we're offering COVID testing mainly for corporate clients rather than for private individuals.
Absolutely. So then, so what's the difference, or with a GP? So would I be right in addressing you as a GP?
Not at all. The thing about a GP, they are very skilled generalists who will deal with everything from a baby to a granny.
Right.
No, I don't deal with babies. I don't deal with anyone under the age of, let's say, 16. And I don't deal with the very elderly at all, in the sense that most of my clients are working people. And also a GP will give you continuity. So you see the GP when you're 25 about problem A, the GP is still there when you're 35 and interested in the follow-up, whereas we don't really do that. We'll see you for one specific thing, and if we can help you with that one specific thing, we'll sort you out, and then we may cross-refer you to a specialist. So you say, it's my hip, and I know the best hip guy in London. It's your knee, I know the best knee guy. It's your gut, I know the best gut guy. So that's the sort of thing we're prepared to do, but we're not really going to be the long-term person for you, because that's not our role or our model.
51 minutes past 7 on Fantastic Mornings. We're spending time with the founder and the person behind YourExcellentHealth.org. Charlie, I come through to you. I have got issues with my back.
Yeah.
As an employee, as my, as an individual, as a professional, and I come through to you. What's the funding scenario like? Is it come through the National Health Service, or I do it privately? How does it work? You're based in Harley Street.
That's right. So the company would employ me to do an occupational health assessment on you to find out what the extent of the problem is. And you work at a radio station. Now, it may well be that your seating is inappropriate to the work that you do, because you spend a lot of time there. And so I might ask if you've had a proper ergonomic assessment, i.e. is the height of the chair, the position, etc. Is that correct?
What did you just say it was?
Sorry?
What did you just say? What did you pronounce?
Ergonomic.
Right. Okay.
Now, it may also be that you've had injuries from when you were younger. You may have been a footballer or a sports person, and those are then aggravating. And so the advice might be that the work position might need to be modified, the work hours might need to be modified. You may need to see a specialist. You may need some physio, some OT. So these are the issues of advice that may be necessary.
That is absolutely brilliant. 52 minutes past 7, talking to Dr. Charlie Easmon from YourExcellentHealth.org.uk. Charlie, apart from your health, you do other things. You've been involved with all sorts. I watched your conversation on TEDx.
Thank you.
And I love it. I watched it and watched it again. And I love it. I love the thinking. I love the psychology behind it, and how your heart. I just could see how passionate you were with it, and how you are adding value to people. If you want to know more about Dr. Charlie, you would have to go to YouTube, right? You go to YouTube, check this man out. He's involved with a whole project called the Global Health Action Strategies and Solutions. But for more information, you go to www.ghASS.co.uk. I would want him to go into it and break it down, what the Global Health Action Strategies and Solutions are, what they do, why they started that, and how can one be part of it. Let's do music, and as soon as we come back, Dr. Charlie, I would love you to break it down, and also sort of share with us, what do you guys do, and why did you even start, and how can one be part of it? Mr. Hamidi, let's do music. After that will be Dr. Charlie from the Global Health Action Strategies and Solutions, and also the founder of Your Excellent Health Service on Harley Street. Let's do music.
Patience, persistence, and perspiration makes an unbeatable combination for success. We are so glad to have you listening. Fantastic Radio UK, your memories, your possibilities.
Hello? You to me are everything, the sweetest song that I could sing. Oh baby, Wait.
A mobile top-up card and 2 helium balloons, £17.
Who picks you up each time you're down? Oh baby, wait.
Making your girlfriend laugh,
Right.
however far away she is. Priceless. There are some things money can't buy. For everything else, there's MasterCard, accepted for all kinds of tricks and treats.
Yeah.
Don't worry about being successful, but work toward being significant, and the success will naturally follow. Thank you for choosing Britain's Fantastic Radio UK. Your music, your possibilities.
You're very much welcome. We're spending time with Dr. Charlie Easmon, 57 minutes past 7 on the London's Fantastic, or Britain's Fantastic Radio, home of possibilities. Charlie spoke on TEDx, and he shares a beautiful story. But for you to know what he spoke about, you go on YouTube, and the title in there is "Our Global Health System is Inefficient. We Need an Alternative." Charlie, what was that all about?
Yeah, so having worked in Rwanda and various other situations, what I saw was you've got two really poles of helping poor people, and poor old Haiti now has had another earthquake and a tsunami and various things. So pole one is what are called the non-governmental organizations.
Right.
And to be honest, they're never fully non-governmental because they often depend a lot of their funding from government.
Right.
So they go in with the decent aim of doing something, and they do some good work, but they don't really necessarily solve the core problem that is there. That's why they need to keep going in.
Right.
And then at the other end, you've got the big UN and WHO and the big international agencies. Again, in theory, these are independent, but of course they are politically motivated as well. And so sometimes what they are doing is literally sticking a Band-Aid over a huge wound that everyone feels, oh, well, that's better than doing nothing. My thought is that we as citizens can get together, and we as citizens can create, essentially, I don't want it to be a charity because I think charities, again, get subverted, but essentially a private agency that will go in and solve problems in a more longer lasting way. And let me give you a very simple example. So if you looked at the Ebola crisis, that was affecting the doctors and nurses. And quite sensibly, if you were a doctor or nurse in an Ebola area, you knew that treating someone with Ebola was likely to kill you. Now, you're in a country where they haven't even paid you for your normal work. And there's no insurance for you if you die, and your family will then be. So it's understandable that as a doctor or nurse, a percentage of them would just flee. They would just say, this is not good. Now, who replaces them is the Western person with their big hazmat suit and everything else, and they try and solve the problem. Now, what would be great is if we could persuade the local doctors and nurses to stay. We should pay them, and we should give them insurance, and we should protect them. And that, I believe, is what we should be doing. Again, with Haiti, there's an earthquake. So what happens is a white professor flies in, and for years he dines out on the fact that he helped build a house for a poor black Haitian. And, you know, there's a picture of this guy on his wall with his hammer. Now, he's a professor of X. He's probably the most incompetent person with a hammer that you've ever seen in your life. And whatever he built probably will fall down in 2 days' time. Whereas beside him is a Haitian who happens to be a master builder. No one's Haitian. No one said, look, if I gave you the money, could you build this house? Could you recreate your community? Yeah, of course the individual could. So my aim is really to search for the local talent that could solve the local problem, rather than us necessarily flying in so-called experts from overseas who, in theory, solve the problem. And of course, we know they don't, because there's another emergency, then there's another emergency, then there's another one. So it's skilling up the locals, providing them with the resources, and looking for the longer term solution to that problem.
That's a beautiful project. That's a beautiful project. I mean, that's a beautiful project. We literally at the end of our, coming to the end of our conversation. But for those who want to know more about this conversation and Dr. Charlie's, video on YouTube, you'd go on YouTube, just type in Charlie Easmon, right? And you would see what I'm talking about. He breaks it down. He breaks it down systematically, what they're doing. He uses the torchlight. He uses the balloon. He uses, the daughter Amber. He uses also. How is Amber, by the way? How is she?
She's great. I'm picking her up today. She's on great form.
Say hello to Amber for me. And he tells a beautiful story as to, how as a community we can contribute to it. How can one contribute or be part of what you're doing as we begin to walk out of our conversation?
Yeah, I think the first thing, as you say, people can go to the website, which is ghass.co.uk, send me an email, and then what I'm going to do, I'm going to bank the interest for now, because what we've got to do, Kojo, to be honest, is we've got to raise the initial funds.
Right.
And I'm thinking that what we'll probably do is do something like Kickstarter and raise the initial funds to get the project off the ground. But it may take me a little while to get that organized. But I think at the moment, I will bank people's interest, and then we'll raise the funds and then try to get the project going properly in the next few years.
Please let me know at any given time, Charlie. I am just on the other side waving a flag at you, okay? Let me know at any given time what I can do, what this company can do, what we can do in pushing it out there and bringing people to the understanding and seeing how best one can add value to what you're doing. And lastly, if you want to get in touch with Dr. Charlie, you go to www.yourexcellenthealth.org. Mr. Hamidi, can we please have Dr. Charlie's website and details up again? It's yourexcellenthealth.org. And the telephone number is 0207 580-5467. I repeat, it's 0207 580-5467. It's on the screen. Please, you can get back to Dr. Charlie, get to see how your company can access his services and how he can also add value to what you're doing. Charlie, my last word to you as we sign up. What are you reading now? And why are you reading?
This is a great question. Okay, so I'm reading two books. One is about an artist called Nico who works with The Doors and Lou Reed and Iggy Pop. So I love music. And then the other book that I've decided I want to read is Gordon Brown's 7 Ways to Change the World. So this is the former Prime Minister. It's some ideas, and I just wanted to get an idea of what his ideas were. And the final one is this book by Michael V. Roberts called Action Has No Season. And Michael...
Right. Okay. Michael Roberts runs a group of media companies across America.
Yes, he's amazing.
Amazing man. And he talks of, he speaks on legacy. He speaks of how to build a whole enterprise with your children, how he's brought his daughters, and how his sons and his son-in-laws have all been part of his business, and how to get the family right and moving things forward. He is an amazing guy. In fact, Michael Roberts has got a whole real estate conglomerate in America, and he even employed his father, and he does it with his brother. Amazing man. I've checked him out. Okay. What is the title again?
This one is called Action Has No Season.
Action has no season.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Charlie.
Yeah.
Thank you so very much. Guys, it's been brilliant. It's been fantastic. Charlie, what's your last word to the interpreter and your last word to the person with a dream and hope? Share a word.
I think go for it. As you said quite rightly, don't be put off by other people. Have a clear vision of what you want to achieve and seek that out. And also be very clear about the quality of life that you want to achieve. There's no point making loads of money and having a rubbish quality of life. So certainly bank the idea of, I'm doing all this because this is the quality of life that I want to achieve.
I'm doing all this, and this is the kind of life I want to achieve. His name is Dr. Charlie Easmon. He runs YourExcellentHealth.org on Harley Street. His contact details are 0207 580 5467. Charlie, on behalf of the Fantastic Radio team, we want to say thank you for coming through. Thank you for the knowledge. Thank you for sharing content that adds value to our listeners. We are indeed grateful, fantastically chuffed. I learned a phrase 2 days ago, and I will use it on you. It says that I am peacock happy and I'm honeymoon joyful for you to have come through. Thank you very much. Guys, it's been Charlie, and we want to thank you. You join us on Monday. Simon Uncle joins us as we get Kumbadia as he comes in to share with us again. I want to say thank you to Charlie Easmon, who has spent the next 40, 50 minutes with us and breaking down the journey of an entrepreneur and going for it. What kind of life do you want? What kind of dream do you have? What is it that you're looking at achieving, and what is it that you so badly want to go for? You heard it right from the man who's done it and who's doing it. What kind of life do you want, and what price are you willing to pay? My name is Kojo Bonti Amoako. You find me on Twitter at Bonti Amoako, or you can get in touch with me on Twitter at, our email at bonti@fantasticradio.co.uk. On behalf of the production team, Kerry, Charles, Bridgestock, Mr. Sina Hamidi, Miss Simone Uncle, and everybody within the Fantastic Radio team making fantastic mornings a brilliant breakfast radio, I want to say thank you so very much for the work you put in. Looking forward to spending Monday with you on Fantastic Morning. Once again, have a fantastic and a beautiful weekend. My name is Kojo Bonti Amoako. Go maximize your dream and make your dreams possible. Bye-bye for now, and have a good day. Bye-bye.
The empowering conversations with our guests, the riveting music we share with you. Thank you for choosing Fantastic Radio UK, home of possibilities.